join us in welcoming our esteemed speaker, Mr. Gaston D'Souza. Today, today's webinar on problem solving, The Answer is You, is hosted by a training specialist. So problem solving is an essential skill in our rapidly changing world. So whether you are a professional or an individual, the ability to effectively solve problem is a crucial for success. So today we are fortunate to learn from Gaston, a renowned training specialist who has empowered countless individuals and organizations with problem-solving strategies. In this webinar, Mr. Gaston will share valuable insights, proven methodologies, and practical techniques to tackle even the most complex problems. So from identifying root cause to implementing the effective solutions, you will gain a comprehensive framework and a problem-solving mindset. So without any waste of time, just let's begin here and let's begin our webinar on problem solving. The answer is you. So over to you, Gaston. You can start sharing your insights, and we are looking forward for an insightful session.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
All right. So guys, good afternoon, everybody. And I'm really glad and happy that I've been given the chance to talk to all of you. I can see that a lot of people participating, and I'm really glad. Now, before we even start what is problem solving, let me put forward a question to all of you. I'm not really sure you'll be able to interact, but what I've got in my right hand is a bottle of water. And what I've got in my left hand is a pen. Now, if any one of you can put this pen, you can see, inside the bottle of water without opening the cap or breaking or damaging the bottle, you will be eligible for a prize. It's a 30-second. All right, Arun Kumar has raised his hand, right? Anyone who can put this pen inside this bottle of water without opening the bottle or breaking or damaging the bottle. If you put the pen, Arun, behind the bottle, it will be a perception. The pen is not inside the bottle. It's a very clear question, statement. This pen has got to be inside this bottle. No, you can't, Swati, you can't break or damage the bottle. It's quite a smart audience. I will like that. If we put the pen behind the bottle, the instructions will not be paid heed to. I said there is a cap. You can see there is a cap right here. Now, the only way you can put this pen inside this bottle of water is when you open the cap and put the pen inside. In a very similar manner, nothing what I say will go inside your mind until and unless you'll open your mind and let the knowledge go inside. What I'm going to share with you in the next 1 hour is something that you may not find in Google, but those insights of my entire life is what you will definitely help in helping you solve problems. Now, if you ask me to define, what exactly is problem solving? In general terms, if you ask me, it is just the act of defining a problem, right? You identify, you prioritize, and you select alternatives for this problem. But the question is, whenever you have problems in front of you, this is what you've got to do. But life is a series of problem-solving opportunities. The problems you face will either defeat you or it will develop you, depending on whether you respond to them or you react to them. The question in problem solving, before we even go to the problem solving methods, is whether you will react or you will respond. And reaction and response is a big phase into our lives. They say that we are humans, so we can think before we react, and that's why you've got to respond. Think about this, guys. It is reaction and response to problem solving is also there in our holy books. For example, the reaction was, why did Mahabharata start? When I ask people these questions, they give me varied answers. And some people say Mahabharata started because Draupadi laughed at Duryodhan. But the real question is this: with Draupadi laughing at Duryodhan and Duryodhan reacted by taking revenge, that's called reaction. But take the story of Lord Ram. Lord Ram was about to get the kingdom of Ayodhya. And one night before, the next morning, he was supposed to be crowned as the king of Ayodhya. One night before, his parents called him in his chamber, and Lord Ram saw that his mother was crying, his father was requesting. And when he asked him, Kya baat hui? What does it matter? And the father and the mother said, there is no kingdom for you. Tomorrow morning, you are going for a 14-year exile. And Lord Ram did not react. He responded by saying only 4 words. Bas, itni si baat. With his 4 words, his response, he went to exile. Jab wo gaye, he was the king, he was the prince of Ayodhya. Jab wo aaye, wo Purushottam Bhagwan Shri Ram ban ke aaye. So guys, response and reaction at problems is a very important factor. And this is exactly where I come to something called as the 6 thinking hats. And if you want, you can please write this down. If you've got the definition of reaction and response, let's go one step further and let's talk about 6 thinking hats. The first one we talk about, whenever you are supposed to solve a problem, the first thing that I will give you practical solutions also to problem solving, but let's go to the first one. Professional problem solvers, the first one they wear is a blue hat. Now, a blue hat is responsible when the group is focused on managing overall decision making. The sample questions that are needed to be asked, this is normally done by the manager. The questions that are needed to ask by the blue hat is what needs to be resolved? How should we define the problem? What are the desired outcomes? What is the process of each hat? And what kind of decision will we arrive at? On an approximation idea, the 6 hats that I will share with you will just give you an overall view of how you've got to solve a problem. We're talking about the white hat next. Now, the white hat represents the process of gathering information. Let me repeat myself once again. The white hat represents the process of gathering information. It just does not tackle the details that are available. It gathers information. What data is available, what information is required, what information is missing, what needs to be done to gather this information, and what questions need to be asked. With that being said, let's move to the green hat. Now, the green hat is actually allows thinking out of the box process. Once again, friends, we will discuss all this in detail, but let me give you a brief idea of what problem solving is all about. The green hat is a free-flowing process. Any experiments we can try to solve problems, any way we can explore new ideas and opportunities, any options we've got to carry this out, and so on. Having said this, we go to the yellow hat. Now, typically, the yellow hat covers the potential benefits of ideas. It allows the people to look at issues with optimism, to probe the insights that you gain during the questions. Are there any opportunities for the green hat to expand? How do we define success? How can this idea be made better? What are the long-term benefits? And then the red hat. Now, the red hat is a combination of instincts and feelings. Sometimes when we propose an idea, we propose an idea because we want to say something. But actually, that idea may not be detrimental to problem solving. So ask yourself this question. Whenever I'm proposing an idea, what kind of an emotions is this idea getting out of me? And the final one is the black hat. Now, the black hat is often regarded as a negative, yet a very logical type of thinking hat. It aims to represent some different questions, like what can the possible failure mean? If this idea is failed, the problem solving is failed, what is the impact that this idea will have on the people who are looking forward to us for problems? And this is where we start the very interesting portion of problem solving that you will love. Whenever you are supposed to solve a problem, please follow the 5 whys, and believe me, you will not only solve the issue, you will get to the root of the issue and ensure that these problems do not occur again. Let me repeat myself once again. Whenever there is a problem, please ask the 5 whys. An example. Now, if you ask me honestly, this 5 whys theory was developed, if I'm not mistaken, by Toyota in 1930. There was a big website crash. And during the website crash, the 5 why question, the idea was formulated. The question was, why did the website crash? The answer was, it ran out of memory. So the solution was, you please get the site up and running in fast. The first question, why did the website crash? Second why was, why did the website run out of memory? The answer was, because of incorrect configuration. The solution was, create a standard operating procedure to verify configuration before every update. The third why was asked, why did the website run out of memory? The answer was, because the site administrator made a mistake. The solution was, please make sure the site administrator knows how to run administrator configuration. Again, the why was asked. The fourth why is, why did the site administrator make a mistake? Because the team did not provide adequate information to the site administrator. The answer was, please train the team to provide sufficient information so that this mistake does not happen again. Again, the fifth why was, why didn't the team provide adequate information? Because apparently it assumed that it was obvious that that the technical manager, the site admin, would know all this information. Then they had a word with the development manager. What seemed to be a technical problem at the beginning of the website crash turned out to be a pure human assumption error, purely because the 5 why theory was established. Once again, whenever you've got to run a problem, you're asked to solve a problem, please ask the 5 whys, and trust me, you will come to the root cause of the problem solving. Here, it proved to be a website crash. That was the problem. But what was the actual root cause? It was a simple assumption error. The next very interesting thing about problem solving is called as the 4-dimensional solution. Now, for many of us, possibly the 4-dimensional solution might prove to be something new. But trust me, guys, the 4-dimensional solution is something that even Chandrayaan-3, the team of Chandrayaan-3 used. When Chandrayaan-2 failed, when it crash landed on the moon, there was a lot of speculation, a lot of inquiries as to why did it fail. And then they used the 4-dimensional solution. Why did Chandrayaan-2 failed? That is what we can learn, so that Chandrayaan-3 was successful, and the rest is history. The first D was structural changes. The lander and the evolution of energy and fuel that a spacecraft needed was too much, and that's why it crash landed. That was the first D. The second D, was enhanced touchdown. Remember, they spoke about soft landing. Earlier, the landing was fast and furious, Chandrayaan-2, and that's why it crash landed. This time, they spoke about soft landing, and that's why the vertical velocity was softened, was lower, and that's why it could not topple. It was firm on the surface of the moon. The third D, the third direction, was that they mentioned that the landing, the direction there was, a landing area has to be bigger in dimensions. So they expanded the area from 500 by 500 meters in Chandrayaan-2 to 4 kilometers by 2.5 kilometers in Chandrayaan-3. which means the landing was bigger. It can land anywhere. It did not limit them to target a specific point. And the fourth was the communication link was very important. Everything that they went through communication, right from the time it was from the face of this earth till when it landed on the southwest pole of the moon. Everything was completely dependent on communication. The one thing that was specifically brought out in the success of Chandrayaan-3 was the difference between conversation and communication. Whenever I solve problems, whenever I take these exercises, whenever I go to management studies, I always ask the team leaders or the managers, how do you all communicate with people? And the one question they always tell me, we communicate by talking to people, by emails, by instructions, by telephone calls. And then I ask them one question, if this is communication, then what is conversation? For problem solving, guys, it's a distinct difference between communication and conversation. Communication is conversation rather is an exchange of words and words alone, while communication is an exchange of words, ideas, values, emotions, and thoughts. I will talk about conversation and communication in a deeper detail in the coming slides. But as of now, let's go to the 3 behavioral aspects. Whenever you solve problems, the first thing that you don't have to do is guesswork. A lot of people guess what is the problem and they start working on that. Guessing what a problem is only defeats the problem of its originality and its root cause. The one thing you cannot do whenever it comes to problem solving is complete guesswork. Never ever guess. And that's why the 5 whys always ask why for you to get to the root cause of problem solving. The second is understanding the problem. The question you've got to ask yourself is, have you really understood the problem from the aspect of the one who has the problem? Or have you understood the problem based on your experience and your understanding? This is a very big question. A lot of problem solvers tend to not find a concrete solution because they fail to understand what is the actual problem. And the last one is focus. Always and always remember, guys, focusing is of utmost importance for problem solving. As in how I show you more steps of problem solving, if you tend to lose focus, you will automatically make sure that you do not exactly give in the solution. And that is where we come to a very important factor. We come to the next slide, which is the two-pronged solution. Whenever we talk about two-pronged solution, whenever you have a problem to be solved, always propose a solution and propose a backup solution. It is history in India or anywhere in the world, whenever there was a problem to be solved, people have proposed a solution, and then the ones whom was supposed to absorb the solution has not liked the solution, and the problem solver was left red-faced. Whenever you have a problem, you have a solution and you have a second solution. Whenever people are given a choice between one solution and a second solution, they will pick up either one solution, which means a solution is picked up compared to proposing only one solution and no solution is chosen. Always remember, guys, a plan and a backup plan always and always helps, which is why you come to one practical result, which is the problem that is solved. Having said that, let me go to in-depth detail of how we should solve problems. The moment you are faced with the problem, there are professional problem solvers, but the moment you are faced with the problem, always remember the first thing that you've got to do is understand the challenge. And if you want, please write this down while I grab a sip of water. They say that understanding the problem is only half the solution. Now, professional problem solvers of all the problems in the world have always said there are no problems in the world. There are only challenges that ordinary people like you and me rise to meet. And which is why understanding the problem is very critical in solving a problem. One of the very first steps that you guys have got to do is define the problem. Please rise and identify what you're dealing with. Only when you understand the challenge is when you'll be able to propose a solution. It is history in the making. Whenever you understand a challenge, say for example, you are faced with a problem, you are faced with a personal problem, always understand what is this challenge all about. Now, say for example, this is where we come to reaction and we come to response. The moment you are faced with the problem, the first thing that you do is offer a solution immediately without understanding the challenge. And this is where a lot of problem seekers go wrong. It is very crucial. It is very important for you to understand the challenge. Until and unless you understand the problem, you will never, ever be able to solve it. I distinctly remember the case of an 8-year-old guy, an 8-year-old girl, sorry, who came home, and this is something that came in the Times of India. When this 8-year-old, very bubbly, very chirpy girl, she came home, and when she came home, she used to be quite silent after school. The parents thought, the tuition teacher thought that this girl was just trying to evade studying. And that's why what they did was they started admonishing the girl, they started chiding the girl, they started shouting at the girl that you've got to study, you just can't come and be quiet after class, you just can't come home and be quiet after school. Nobody understood what the girl was going through. And then there was this one counselor. When the girl was taken to the counselor, the girl broke down and said that there is someone in school who's a tutor who is touching her inappropriately. The parents were giving solutions without understanding the challenge that the girl was going through. And once the challenge was understood, once the problem was understood, is exactly when the culprit was caught and the girl returned back to normalcy. That's why, guys, the 5 whys. Whenever you are faced with a problem, please make sure that you understand the challenge first before proposing a solution. And that's why we say understanding the challenge is half the battle won. And which is why we come to a very important factor, brainstorming. One of the most popular and proven problem-solving stage is brainstorming. And this is what effective leaders across the country, across the world use to solve problems. If you cannot come together as a team, especially in the organization or maybe even in the country, if you cannot come together as a team to solve problems, remember, every idea can be one that can solve the problem by holding it by the scruff of its neck. Always and always remember, guys, brainstorming is something. It's a group activity which is on purpose to generate a lot of solutions. And always remember, when you have one solution, it is always difficult for you to understand, should we adopt this solution or not? But if you have multiple solutions put together, you can easily pick up one solution that can be perfect to the problem that is to be solved. Writing down the different solutions is always something that everybody benefits in terms of brainstorming. But the question of brainstorming is this. There are some rules of brainstorming which you guys have got to observe. The first is defer judgment. Let me repeat myself once again. In brainstorming, the first thing that you do is defer judgment. Never ever judge anyone by their looks or by what they've got to offer. Listen to what they offer. Creative spaces are judgment-free zones. You've got to let ideas flow so people can build from each idea. The first person who said there can be the man can go onto the moon. When the Wright brothers say we are going to take metal parts and we're going to build a plane, it's a metal body. It can inanimate object. It can go in space. It can fly. People laughed at those people. They had given a creative idea. The moment they said, जब उनको लगा कि ये metal लोखंड के जो parts हैं उसको लेके हम हवा में जहाज उड़ाएंगे, लोग उन पे हंसने लगे. It was a creative idea. But 16 years and with cycle parts, the Wright brothers flew an aeroplane into the sky. Otherwise, the earlier creative ideas were that nothing which is inanimate can fly into the sky. So the second rule is always encourage wild ideas and build on the ideas of others. The next one is please stay focused on the topic. Whenever you have a brainstorming session in professional environment or in personal, the 3-4 people come together and they have a brainstorming session, we tend to go off topic. So a sincere request to brainstormers is please stay focused on the topic and one conversation at one point of time. And this is where you've got to go for quantity, because when you have enough quantity is when you'll pick up qualitative solutions. Which is where we come to the third one, is picking up the best strategy. It's not that all the solutions that you propose for problem solving, it's not that all the solutions will work. There was a point of time when people thought the ground was flat, and that's why a flat surface can be pushed easily. And there was this mad person who said the ground is flat, but maybe if we create something which is round, it can roll easily and we can reach to our destination faster. People again laughed at the person, but the rest is history. The tire was born. Out of all these strategies that were given for an automobile to go faster, for a car to go faster, the one that gave a creatively wild idea, which was a tire, which people laughed at, that was born. So picking up the best strategy. First, you understand the challenge. Second is you brainstorm. The third is you pick up the best strategy. Because remember, guys, nobody likes problems. They are a part of life, though. But it is important to find effective ways to deal with the problems. And which is where it is so important always, whenever you are solving problems, please break those problems into bite-sized parts. And then it's easy for you to pick the best strategy. In problem solving, always remember, work on a timeline. It is so crucial. You've got an entire timeline that you break into guideline, at the guideline, the work line, and then the deadline. Please determine the stages or steps you'll require to follow to resolve the problem. And never ever compare yourself to others. Say, for example, somebody is providing a solution and you cannot come up with something creative. Do not compare yourself to others, because everybody has the time to shine. The one thing that is of crucial importance is deploying the solution. Once you have a solution to a problem, you always deploy the solution. Implementation and deploying are two different things. Let me repeat myself. Implementation and deploying are two different things. You implement an idea and you deploy a solution. Whenever you have an idea, right, you implement it by deciding to implement the idea into the problem, and deployment is execution of the solution. This is where we come to something that is called as training the mind. In problem solving, let me repeat myself once again before we go to the next slide. The first one is you understand the challenge. The next one is when you brainstorm. The next one is when you pick up the best strategy. And after that, we are talking about deploying the solution. A lot of problems with me being a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, a lot of people come up with a question that says, whenever you have to talk in reference to problem solving, what is the difference between a conversation and a communication? In problem solving, it is very important for you to communicate rather than converse. And I'll give you the distinct difference between a conversation and communication. Let me tell you about a story that so happened. There was a boy who decided to meet a girl, right? And it was, the girl said, let's meet at a bus stop at about 4 p.m. in the evening. And this is not a story I made up. It has happened actually in life. And the boy decided, okay, in Mumbai, there's a place called as Bandra. So they decided to meet at this place, and they were supposed to meet at a bus stop. I'm talking about 20 years earlier down the line. And when the boy went at about 4 o'clock at the bus stop, the girl failed to be there. The boy was there at 3:30. 3:30 became 4, 4 became 4:30, 4:30 became 5, 5 became 5:30, 5:30 became 6, and the girl didn't turn up. The boy was furious. He said, how can somebody stand me up? He went back home furious and angry and decided never to talk to this girl again. After about a couple of days, the friend of this girl came to meet the boy and said, what you've done to my friend is very wrong. And the boy said, what did I do wrong? I was there at the bus stop waiting for 2 hours. Your friend didn't turn up. And the girl said, well, you are a liar because my friend did turn up for the meeting. And after about a heated argument, they found out that both were right, because the girl was there in Bandra East and the boy was there in Bandra West. This is what conversation does. It's an exchange of words and words alone. Let me share with you about communication. When I was quite young, I had gone to a place which had housed the autistic children. And then I was going and we had gone with a bunch of guys, and I was making the children laugh, and everybody was laughing. And then I found out that there was this young 16, 17-year-old girl who was staying in one corner in a wheelchair, looking at us from one corner and then not coming ahead. It so happened, I noticed the person. And I went too close to the girl and I tried to make the girl laugh. The girl was strapped in a wheelchair, approximately about 16, 17 years of age. The girl was strapped onto the wheelchair. She could not talk much. When I was making actions, I was talking like a clown. I was walking like a monkey. The girl started smiling and laughing. I was having all the more antics. But after some time, I found out that the girl was trying to tell me something which maybe I couldn't understand. But then I thought that the girl is enjoying my talks. I was trying to joke all the more, trying to have some more actions. After some time, the girl who had put her hands up and down, and after about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the girl broke down crying. I was frightened. I didn't know what was happening. I went quickly to the refectory, to where the nuns who were managing these girls. I went and said, look, the girl is crying. The nun came out there, looked at the girl, smiled at me, took the wheelchair and said, Gaston, play with the other children. I'll come back in 45 or half an hour, 1 hour. After 1 hour, the sister comes back with the girl in a wheelchair. This time, the girl's clothes were completely changed. When I asked the nun, sister, what happened? And she said, this girl for the last was enjoying your company. That's why she was smiling. And after some time, the girl was trying to tell you, okay, brother, I want to use the restroom. She could not communicate. So she was trying to tell you to sign language. You could not understand. 20 minutes into this conversation, and the girl could not make you understand. And because of the frustration, that poor 17-year-old adolescent girl soiled her own clothes. The question I've got to ask all of us is this. The girl was an autistic girl. She could not have the power of communication because she could not talk. And that's why she soiled herself and she was embarrassed. Imagine the embarrassment of that young girl. But we have the power of communication. We have the power to talk. But to our friends and to our team, our people who follow us, do we converse or do we communicate? And that's why I say conversation is an exchange of words and words alone, but communication is an exchange of words, thoughts, ideas, values, and emotions. Whenever you solve a problem, remember, guys, you've got to communicate rather than just converse. Conversation will only give them words to understand, but a communication will help them understand those words that you are speaking. And which is where we come to a very important and critical point, and I'll give you 5 well-known problem-solving techniques. I hope it is going good. Any questions for me as of now? We can take questions later. I think we'll take in questions later. We can park the questions in the chat box. Yeah. The first one, and a well-known problem technique, is this. Whenever you are supposed to solve a problem, please list the obstacles. Let me repeat myself once again. Whenever you are solving a problem, please list the obstacles. Always explore every possibility of what the obstacles can be. People with high potential problem-solving ability often take a detailed view of the involved issues. They jot down all the possible potential factors which can further get into the way of a proposed solution. And always, guys, remember, it is very important for you all to understand this. All right. The first obstacle can be perfection. We all tend to understand that we are perfect beyond means. A lot of problem people given solutions saying, this is the solution, like it or lump it, accept it or reject it. And that's why only one, because we consider ourselves as better than anybody else. Always remember, in problem solving, humility is the name of the game. Propose a solution, propose a backup plan. That's what you do. The next thing that you've got to do is, whenever, always remember, guys, never ever fear to propose a solution. The moment you fear to propose a solution, you're keeping your potential solution with us, with yourself, and that's why maybe that solution is exactly what they are asking. All right, we've got some questions in the chat. Omakant, I'll definitely help you with this answer. But as of now, let's continue so that we don't break the momentum. The next point, in always remember, guys, in problem solving, there is a lack of clarity. Now imagine you're going on a trip and you need to pack. Your suitcase is out, but you do not know where you're going. You haven't decided where you're going. You don't know whether to take clothes for woolen clothes, or you don't know whether to take shorts, because you don't know whether you're going to a place that has got snow, or don't know whether you're going to a place that has got sun. Always remember, guys, clarity is very essential for you to understand the problem. Very, very crucial for you. Next thing, never make comparisons with problems. Every problem has got a different solution. Never make comparisons. I'll give you one thing. I remember distinctly well. There was this doctor who was not qualified. He was a quack, if you actually ask me. And then for every headache, there has to be only Saradon. The moment there is a headache, it is Saradon. But even sometimes with migraine, he used to provide Saradon. Of course, his dispensary was shut down. So guys, remember, it is not possible for every problem to have one solution. So never make comparisons of your problems with everybody else. Which is where we come to another important factor, is that for you to understand why do we require to list down obstacles, because obstacles will help you direct your actions. If you want, please write this down. Obstacles will always help you direct your actions. Someone told me once, well, you can walk on water if only you know where the stones are placed. Let me repeat myself once again. Someone told me once, you can walk on water if only you know where the stones are placed. Let me help you with another one. The second one is find the golden opportunities. Find the golden opportunities. In ways more than one, problems always have their solutions within them. And I'm saying this not out of theory, out of complete practicality. In ways more than one, Problems always have a solution within them. A very well-known public speaker gave in a challenge to his people. Excuse me. A very well-known public speaker gave in a challenge to his people. I want you to listen to this challenge very carefully. He gave them a box of pins, an entire box of pins. He gave them a candle, and he said, and he gave them a matchbox, yeah, with a matchstick. He said, I want you all to light the candle. The candle should be pinned on the wall. The candle should be against the wall, not pinned on the wall, against the wall, and the wax should not drop down. Let me repeat myself once again. The candle has got to be pinned on the wall and the wax should not drop down. Now, everybody started thinking, what do we do about this challenge? They started brainstorming. They started finding out different solutions. And when they said, but if we pin the candle against the wall, there are the box of tacks, there are box of pins. If we pin the candle against the wall, the wax is going to fall down by default. Then they said, can we place the box on the floor so that the wax falls on the floor and not on the ground? And the public speaker said, no, you can't do that. But the candle has got to be against the wall. And then someone found a simple solution. They took the box of pins, emptied the entire box of pins. The lower box is what they stuck against the wall. They lit the candle and they placed it on the box. A lot of the time, the problems are within, the solutions rather, are within the problems that you guys face. All that it requires for you to understand is a completely different perspective. The next one we're talking about is always stay open-minded. The next one we're talking about is always and always stay open-minded. It is history in the world. It is history in the world. A lot of the people believe in assumptions and not staying open-minded. A lot of the people believe in assumptions and not staying open-minded. As whenever you have an assumption, you have a closed mind. And in assumptions, I remember distinctly well, there was the CEO of a very big, huge conglomerate, a CEO of an industry. Now, the CEO had a very clear rule. He had a very, very clear rule. He used to always tell, whenever I want leaders in my organization, please facilitate the interview. But after you've chosen the leader, please invite me over, send the person to me, only I will hand him the appointment letter. People asked him, why is this rule for? And he says, well, that's the way it is. This time, the organization required an HR manager. Now, the interviews were floated down, the vacancies were floated down, the know-hows were given, and every interview was taken. And finally, the HR, the current HR, they finalized on an absolute amazing young man, brilliant in his approach. And they called up the CEO very excitedly and they said, sir, we've got this lovely person who is perfectly touted to be the HR manager. The CEO is also very excited. He says, please send the person over to my house. It was a Sunday afternoon. The person went to the CEO's house and says, sir, well, your people have chosen me to be the HR manager. And the CEO congratulates him, well, I'm glad to meet you. But since it is lunchtime, let's go for lunch. And they went to a restaurant, went to a nice buffet. It was a Chinese restaurant, most probably. Now, the CEO told him, whatever you want, you can have. Now, whenever there is a buffet and the Chinese buffet, what comes first is always breadsticks, sauces, and soup. Well, when breadsticks, sauces, and soup came in, and the CEO said, let's eat. And then the HR manager, the proposed HR manager, the way we all do, right? Took in the sauces, mixed it in the soup, dipped his breasted, and started having the soup. The CEO was watching him very intently and very carefully. They finished, they had starters, they finished their lunch. And then at the end of the lunch, when dessert was done, the CEO said, great meeting you, thank you very much. My team will get in touch with you. The HR guy was nonplussed. He goes, Well, sir, they told me that after lunch is when you will give in my appointment letter. And he says, the CEO says, well, yes, that's the rule, but my people will get in touch. Don't worry, you're a great guy. Now, this guy goes back frustrated, calls again the HR people and says, well, your CEO is a very strange guy. He did not give me the appointment letter. And the HR manager calls the CEO and says, sir, what happened? Why didn't you give him the appointment letter? And the CEO says something that shocked him beyond his senses. He said, this person that you chose is not fit to be in the position of an HR manager. Then they asked him why. He said, when soup was first served, this guy, he mixed sauces into the soup, gripped his breadstick, and started having the soup. And then the HR said, well, sir, that's the usual procedure. That's what we all do. And the CEO said, how did this person know that the soup required sauces before he even tasted the soup? Had he tasted the soup and then mixed the sauces, it was fine. He may realize that possibly the soup requires sauces. But how did he know that the soup requires sauces before he tasted the soup? Which means in our organization, you will get a person who will take a decision without knowing the situation. The HR person said, well, sir, this is a very small thing. And the CEO said, well, if you think this is a small thing, tomorrow you will be the next to go. Assumptions, my dear friends. In problem solving, it's good to stay open-minded. Never, ever assume. It's a fat chance that you might be wrong. It's a fat chance that the person in front of you might possibly give you a solution that you may have never, ever imagined. Always and always stay open-minded. Always keep your eyes and ears open to the possibilities of something new. There might be a case where the actual problem is not the problem you think it is. It might be a different thing, but because you have a fixed outlook, because you have an assumptive mind, you are assuming that the problem is of a different type. Staying open-minded, exploring different ideas of the same problem will always be advisable in problem solving, which is where we come to something called as an uninterested observer. Whether we like it or we don't like it, whether we accept it or we don't accept it, whether we accept it or we don't, or whether we understand it or we don't, we have all used this formula at any point of time. Whenever our mind is stuck on a problem, it is history. Whenever our mind is stuck on a problem, our mind has a tendency of sticking to the same. Sometimes we are so preoccupied with the problem that we will tend, that we are preoccupied, right? That we completely miss the alternative thought process. An uninterested observer only means getting a fresh set of eyes to examine the problem. That's why sometimes when we invite our friends over and says, this is the problem I'm facing, I can't make head nor tails of it, I can't give it a solution, please have a look at the problem and let me know if you can find a solution. We get a fresh set of eyes, and because that person is not personally attached to the problem, he might possibly give you a solution that you would have never thought of. That's what an uninteresting observer only means. Which is where I come to a very important factor, which is called the obstacles you might encounter while solving a problem. This is one thing that the entire country or maybe the entire world is reeling under. The first obstacle while solving a problem is the way you distinguish what is fake and what is a fact. Let me repeat myself once again. Whenever there is a lot of misleading information which is giving rise to a lot of problems, the art of problem solving has flaws too, all right? But please make sure that the problem you are trying to solve, is it fake or is it a fact? I remember in Corona times, there was a very, very big issue in Mumbai itself. For the ones who are out of Mumbai, let me share with you a problem in Mumbai itself. There was a situation wherein it was announced that a train is going in from Mumbai to a place in Ahmedabad. And imagine the number of multitudes of people who rushed the railway station because trains had stopped. And the crowd was so much that the police had to resort to a lathi charge. They had to resort to water cannons to dispel the crowd, in which at least 100 people died. And it was a fake WhatsApp message. For the ones who have graduated from the WhatsApp university, be very careful, guys, in understanding if the message you've got before you forward it, if the message you've got, is it important? Is it true? And that only if it is required, forward it. Please do not forward messages blindly and give rise to problems that are never ever there. The next one we come to is called as our mindset. What we humans believe in, and this is something which is called as, it's called as the neuro-linguistic programming mindset, right? It's all a circle. Everything starts with our attitude. Our attitude is a state of mind. Let me repeat myself once again. Attitude is our state of mind. Our attitude gives rise to our behavior. Our attitude gives rise to our behavior. The distinct difference between attitude and behavior. Say, for example, and I want you all to listen to me very carefully for this important point. If A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3, D is equal to 4, and so on and so forth, ATTITUD, if you actually add all the numbers, it will prove to be 100. But BEHAVIOUR, if you add those numbers, it will prove to be 101, which simply means our behavior is a little more than attitude. Let me repeat myself once again. If A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3, and so on and so forth, ATTITUD, the spelling of attitude, if you add all those numbers, it comes to 100. But if you add BEHAVIOUR, behavior, it comes to 101, which means whatever attitude you have, whatever state of the mind you have, your behavior is more important. Because based on your behavior, you will start with the action that is required. And once the action, whatever solution is produced, it will result in something concrete. And these results will lead to performance. It's all a big circle. Attitude leads to behavior. Behavior leads to action. Action leads to results. Results lead to performance. And performance, once again, whatever is the performance, good performance or bad performance, it will all lead to your attitude again. It's all a mindset. It's all a mind game. In problem solving, always be careful. Be mindful of what your mindset is all about. Which gets me back to a very important factor of something which we called as functional fixedness. Functional fixedness. People often end up making assumptions, and I said earlier, right? They often end up making assumptions. Whenever you see a problem in a customary manner, you tend to give the same solution that you may have possibly given this problem many years ago. An example, anyone who has a stomachache, you will possibly give him a certain specific medicine. But what if the matter is more serious? And you giving him that same medicine, so maybe if I have indigestion, right? I might possibly take an antacid. But my stomach is aching. This time it is because of a kidney stone. Will an antacid solve the problem? And that's why never think all problems are the same. Functional fixedness will prevent you from exploring all the options in hand. The same can restrict you from the inputs given by your peers. People often end up making assumptions when they start dealing with the problem. Always remember, never ever assume, because assumptions are the root cause of a lot of problems that are created which are not even there. With this, I come to the end of our problem solving workshop. I'll quickly go to what we've done very quickly. What we spoke about is the difference between a reaction and response. We spoke about how the problems can defeat you or develop you depending on whether you react or you respond. We spoke about the 6 hats, the 6 thinking hats. The blue hat, the white hat, blue hat responsible for decision making, the white hat for gathering information, the green hat for novel ideas, the yellow hat for covering potential benefits, the yellow hat for potential benefit, the red hat for instincts, your feelings, your emotions, and the black hat for logical explanation. Then we spoke about the next slide, we spoke about the 5 whys. Always ask 5 whys for every problem that you normally have, and then you'll come to the root cause. Why do you want to come to the root cause? Because then we can tackle the root cause compared to only the surface. Remember, guys, root causes will help you eliminate problem from the root rather than skimming the surface. I remember a story of Acharya Chanakya. In Chanakya Niti, one day Acharya Chanakya in the jungle was going with King Vikramaditya. And then a thorn, Thoda kata tha, it hurt Vikramaditya. He was so angry because his leg was bleeding. He took his sword and looked around. There were a lot of thorns everywhere. He decided to cut all those thorns, all the shrubs, all the bushes. And Acharya Chanakya says, don't do that. Don't do that. It will not be of any help. Instead, please get me sweets. Mujhe rasgulle le aao, sugar le aao, good le aao. And King Vikramaditya was very surprised, saying, I am hurt, Acharya Chanakya. Why are you asking for rasgullas and sugar syrup and jaggery? And when he bought that, he says, please pour that, the roots. Please pour sugar syrup and jaggery in the roots of those shrubs from where the thorns are coming. When you pour sugar syrup and jaggery in the roots, the ants will come and eat the roots up, and that's why the shrubs will be dead and gone. Trimming the shrubs will only trim the surface. Always remember, guys, the 5 whys always strikes the root of the problem. We're talking about the 4-dimensional solution, all the 4-dimensional solution, right? And Chandrayaan, I gave you the example. How did they go from Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3 by a 4-dimensional solutions? The structural changes, the velocity, the speed, and the communication link. We spoke about the 3 behavioral aspects: guesswork, understanding, never ever guess, always try and understand the problem and remain in focus. We spoke about a plan and a backup plan and the 1 practical solution. We spoke about understanding the challenges, very crucial, very important for you to understand the problem. Then brainstorming. We spoke about how to brainstorm and get solutions. We spoke about picking the best strategy. We spoke about deploying the best solution, problem solving techniques, listing the obstacles, finding the golden opportunities. We spoke about staying open-minded, never ever assume. We spoke about an uninterested of a fresh set of eyes, because sometimes a fresh mind will give you a better solution. Obstacles, distinguish between fake and fact, very crucial. And then take care of your mindset. It's all a circle from attitude to behavior to your action to your results to your performance. And finally, towards the end, we spoke about functional fixedness. Thank you very much for having me. We can open some questions and answers if there are.
So before we move to our Q&A session, so let us we would like to greatly appreciate your feedback on this webinar. So your insights are valuable to us. So, and it will help us to improve our future events. So please take a moment to participate in brief feedback poll. So I'm launching this feedback poll is live on your screen. So please do share your feedback. And we can move towards the Q&A section.
Yes, we've got some
And if
Right,
you
the
have
poll is on,
certain
yeah.
questions that you think you want to ask directly to Gaston, you can raise your hand. I will move to the panelist and you can directly have a word with him. So any one of you is interested can just raise your hand. Yeah.
I think Anirban is asking me the difference between implementation and deployment.
There are two questions from him.
Right. So implementation and deployment. So Anirban, thank you for asking this question. I think this is very intelligent. Implementation of the is having an idea in your mind. Whenever, that's why we say whenever you brainstorm and you have an idea in your mind, it's time that we decide to implement the idea and use it in practical purpose. Deployment is the actual execution of the ideas. Right? In the war with Russia and Ukraine, they decided to implement the war, and the army was deployed to carry on the war. The difference between understanding the problem and challenge. Now, problems and challenges are almost the same. The situation is what we say is understanding the challenge. A problem, another word for problem is the challenge, right? So it is understanding the challenge.
Yeah, Mr. Anirban, do you want to have a word? You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I want to have a word.
Yes, Anirban, go ahead. I'm listening.
Can we have, very briefly, because you already spoken for an hour, so this may be an unreasonable demand, one or two words on interpersonal problems.
Are you talking
They
about?
are problems.
Are you talking about personal problems?
Interpersonal problems.
How do you define them? Any specific incident?
Getting along, influencing a person to your way of thinking.
Influencing a person to your way of thinking. That is interesting. All right. Influencing person by force will simply make you unreasonable. But influencing a person by your thoughts and ideas and values will make you a leader. Let me repeat myself once again. Influencing a person by just asking him to follow you, because respect is earned, it can never be demanded, right? If you want to influence someone, you got to influence a person by you being yourself. And the person is receptive to your ideas, influencing will automatically happen. If the person is not getting influenced by your ideas, you might want to change your methodology. But you can never force a person to be influenced by you.
How do you break stubbornness?
How do
as a leader, you could have in your team somebody with above average stubbornness.
True, I understand that. I've been a leader myself in Bank of America. I know how it means to have stubborn people in your team. And this is all, it's a case-to-case basis, Anirban, on a very honest level. I will not be able to give you a blanket answer for breaking stubbornness. Stubbornness is a bad habit. It's not a trait. It's not a quality. It's just a bad habit. Sometimes you might possibly give
sorry to interrupt. Would you exclude, after having exhausted all your efforts, would you consider changing the person?
Again, it will all depend on the project, if that's what you're talking about. If the stubbornness of the person is harming my project, I might possibly have to tell him that we've tried all the possible aspects in trying to make you see light of the situation. But in the larger picture, I might possibly replace you with somebody else, but I will definitely talk to you more. I will never leave the person. I might replace him temporarily. As a leader, I don't believe in leaving my people out of the lurch.
Okay. I've got your philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, Anirban. Nilesh says, welcome, buddy. I'm glad you liked it. To further improve problem-solving skills, I would say for problem-solving skills, you've got to learn life skills. And life skills are nothing but simply towards a better you. Reading is one thing that would definitely go right ahead and recommend. Which books you like, which books, if you're asking me, everybody has their own way of. I love fiction. I love self-help books. I love practical books that help me upskill myself. All right, with that, any more questions that I can take, or are we run out of time?
So in a chat box, we are having certain questions. So
Okay.
I'll read it for you.
Yes, please.
So your Mr. Umakant Mishra is asking you a question regarding like for better communication, one need to articulate complex things in a simple way, but this process, it's very hard.
How do you master it?
How do you master it? Yeah.
All right. Umakant, thank you very much for asking this question. Communication is something that has to be learned every day, right? In your voice, like say, for example, it's not what you say, it's how you say it that can kind of help a person. Sometimes a very simple complex of how are you compared to how are you will make all the difference. So communication is a never-ending process. I am still learning communication, if that answers your question.
Mr. Sunil is asking, like, could you please share the points for that you have already revised the PPT? Again, one more question from Umakant is like Wi-Fi, yes. Wi-Fi, why is only to reach till root cause? It can take more or less.
I agree, Umakant. I completely agree. The 5 is actually a predefined universal solution for 5 whys. It can be 3, it can be 2, it can be even 1. It can be even 7. It can be more, it can be less. The 5 why is a defined term in professional trainings for, it's a universal term, but it can be more, it can be less. I completely agree.
Yeah, one more question is, can we have any other example or anything more on 4D?
We have multiples, but that will take, if you actually, Mayur, I can share some more insight, but it will take a lot of time. The 4-dimensional approach is a huge one, if you actually ask me. However, what I would suggest is try to have the 4-dimensional approach, search in Google. Possibly you might get examples there too. Possibly.
So there is one more question from Akriti. There is a saying like prioritize direction over speed. So this is true, but quick response is also needed.
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
There is a saying prioritize direction over speed. This is true, but quick response is also needed. How to work out on it?
True. Now, direction over speed, we always say, right? Everybody is busy, but the question is busy doing what? Direction is very, very crucial. It's always good to have a right direction compared to having more speed. Now, when you say reflex, never ever, as I said earlier in my PPT, never ever provide a solution by reflex. You'll always end up in ways more than one with the wrong solution. Your solutions, you've got to have these 4 methods: understanding, brainstorming, picking up the best strategy and deployment. You've got to have these 4. If you actually, if someone will ask me, will propose a problem and I give him a solution instant, that's not really a problem. That's only a perspective of the mind.
Yeah, and there is one more question, like how to distinguish misleading information.
I was waiting for someone to ask me that. Misleading information, and it's a study done in Stanford that misleading information is 90% of the time in the WhatsApp university. Whenever I get WhatsApp messages, the first thing I do, it might be the most juicy tidbit bit of information. The first thing I do is I check it on Google, or if it is reflecting on the paper. At the cost of spreading a juicy bit of information to my entire friend circle, and they will spread it out to somebody more, at the cost of being the leader in spreading out all the information, I might possibly slander somebody's character. I might possibly kill someone, or I might possibly make sure that a person is shamed, especially if the information is not true. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Araktan. Thank you very much. Yes, Ekta.
Yeah, so I think there are one more question in the Q&A section. That is, I'll answer it. So there are no questions under the Q&A and under the chat box. So I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Gaston for his expertise and insight that you have undoubtedly left us a lasting impact on us. And I would also like to thank each and every one of you for your active participation and engaging throughout the session. So remember, the journey of problem solving continues beyond this webinar. So apply whatever you have learned, share your knowledge to others, and keep seeking new ways to refine and expand your problem solving skills. So thank you one again for joining us, and have a wonderful day ahead. And once again, thank you, Gaston, for such a wonderful insights that you have shared today.
Thank you very much, Ekta. Thanks a lot, team. I'm glad you had me with you all, and I hope I have enlightened you all in some way or the other. Take care of yourselves. God bless you. Have a great weekend.